Alright, proportions day 3. Sam traveled 600 miles in X hours. The next day he traveled 1 hour longer at the same rate and went 660 miles. Determine how long he drove each day. Remember that rate is distance over time. Okay, so it first says write a ratio for Sam's rate the first day he traveled 600 miles in X hours. Well, if rate equals distance over time, then they want us to say that his ratio is 600 over X because he drove 600 miles in X hours. So suppose Sam drove 2 hours the first day. If he traveled an hour longer the second day, how long did he travel? Well, he traveled 2 plus 1, which is 3. We know Sam drove X hours the first day. If he traveled an hour longer the second day, then he must have traveled X plus 1 hours the second day. So write a ratio for Sam's rate the second day. So we need the distance over the time. The second day, he drove 660 miles over his time of X plus 1. We know that Sam traveled the same rate both days. So how did the ratios compare? The word same in math is definitely equals. So we have 600 over X equals 660 over X plus 1. That is our proportion for this problem. We now need to solve, and we're going to do the cross multiply method. However, we need to be very, very careful when we cross multiply. I'm going to do 600 times X plus 1. So I need to write it like this: 600 parentheses X plus 1. That way I remember to multiply the X and the 1 by the 600. And then that's going to equal 660X. So now I will distribute my 600. So 600X plus 600 equals 660. Then I would going to subtract my 600 on both sides. So that's going to be 600X equals 60. I will then divide by 600 on both sides. So X is going to be 0.1. So X stands for the hours, so it's 0.1 of an hour, or a tenth of an hour. If we wanted to convert that to minutes, we could, but we're just going to leave it as 0.1 hours. Alright, next problem. Mary wants to build 2 similar rectangular flower beds in the backyard. She wants the width of the first flower bed, so let's first draw a rectangle. The width of the first flower bed to be 6 feet, and the width of the second flower bed to be 8. So the second flower bed apparently needs to be bigger. Okay. The length of the second flower bed must be 3 feet more. Math stuff. 3 feet more than the length of the first flower bed. Write and solve a proportion to determine the length of each flower bed. Well, I don't know the length of the first flower bed, so let's let that be L. But the second flower bed must be 3 feet more than L. So L plus 3. So if I write a proportion, I have length is to length, so length is to L plus 3, as width is to width, or 6 is to 8. So we started with this L, we have to go to L plus 3. We started with this 6, we have to go to 8. Now I'm going to cross multiply and divide. L times 8 is 8L. Now when I do 6 times L plus 3, I need to write it as 6 parentheses X plus 3. Okay, then I have 6 times L, so 6L plus 6 times 3 is 18. Now I'm going to subtract 6L on both sides. That's going to give me 2L equals 18. I'm then going to divide by 2, so the length is going to be 9. Now that's the length of the first flower bed. The length of the second flower bed must then be 12. Alright, this next problem we're going to cross multiply. And again, we've got to be careful. This is 3 times x plus 1, so it's got to be 3 parentheses x plus 1. And then we've got to do 2 times x minus 1, so on that one we have to be careful as well. 2 parentheses x minus 1. Then we distribute, so we've got 3x plus 3 equals 2x, and then minus 2. Then we're going to subtract 2x on both sides. That's going to give me x plus 3 equals negative 2. Then I'm going to subtract 3 on both sides, so x is going to equal negative 5. Alright, next example, we're going to cross multiply, and we're going to have 4x times 100. That's 400x. And then I'm going to be very careful here. 25 times 85 minus x, I'm going to write as 25 parentheses 85 minus x, so that I can distribute. Alright, so we bring down 400x, and then 25 times 85 is 2125, and 25 times negative x is negative 25x. Then I need to get my x's together, so I'm going to add 25x to both sides. So that's going to give me 425x equals 2125. I'm then going to divide by 425, and that means x is then going to equal 5. Alright, next example, I've got to do 3 times 21. Well, that is 63. And then I'm going to do 14 times t minus 2. So 14 parentheses t minus 2. So 63 equals, you're going to have 14t minus 28. And I'm going to add 28 to both sides. And so 14t is going to equal 91. And then I'm going to divide by 14. And I'm going to get t is equal to 6.5. Alright, so last one here, I'm going to cross multiply. So I've got 1 times x minus 5. And then over here, this is 3 times x minus 3. I'm going to distribute and get x minus 5 equals 3x minus 9. Then I'm going to get my x's together. So subtract x on both sides. So I've got negative 5 equals 2x minus 9. Then I'll add 9 to both sides. That'll give me 4 equals 2x. So x must equal 2. Alright, last two problems. A tower casts a 450-foot shadow at the same time that a 4-foot child casts a 6-foot shadow. Write and solve a proportion to find the height of the tower. So if we do the tower's shadow versus the child's shadow, then that's got to equal the tower's height versus the child's height. So now we can cross multiply. So 450 times 4, that's 1,000. No, not 1,000. Hold on just a second. That's 1,800. And then that equals 6 times h, which is 6h. I divide by 6. Then I'm going to get the height of the tower to be 300 feet. Alright, a particular shade of paint is made by mixing 5 parts red paint with 7 parts blue paint. To make the shade, Shannon mixed 12 quarts of blue paint with 8 quarts of red paint. Did she mix the correct shade? Well, you're supposed to do 5 parts red to 7 parts blue. Now Shannon mixed 12 quarts blue and 8 quarts red. So we need 8 red on top and 12 quarts blue on the bottom. When we ask if she mixed the correct shade, we're kind of checking to see if these two are equal to each other. So we can check if we cross multiply. Well, 5 times 12 is 60, and 8 times 7 is 56. These two things are not equal. Therefore, no, Shannon did not mix the correct shade of paint. If she had, the proportions would be the same.